Ladies and gentlemen, there is a silent thief that robs millions of seniors around the world, not of their money, not of their possessions, but of something far more precious, the freedom to move without pain. That thief is arthritis. And if you have ever woken up in the morning with stiff joints, if you have ever hesitated to pick up your grandchild because your hands ached, if you have ever stared at a flight of stairs and wondered whether today you could climb them, then you know exactly what I am talking about. Arthritis is not just a medical condition, it is a daily battle, a weight carried in silence, a reminder that the simplest things in life can suddenly feel like mountains to climb. But here is the truth I want to plant in your heart today. Arthritis may slow your steps, but it does not have the power to stop your spirit. It may bend your joints, but it cannot bend your will. It may whisper to you that life has become smaller, but you, yes, you, have the power to prove it wrong. Today, I want to share with you three truths, three guiding lights that can help transform the way we face this challenge, not with despair, but with courage, with resilience, and with purpose. The first truth is this: movement is medicine. I know that sounds almost ironic, because when your knees are throbbing or your hands feel like they are on fire, the last thing you want to do is move. But let me tell you a story. A woman named Margaret, 72 years old, once told me that after her arthritis diagnosis, she sat in her chair for hours every day, convinced that rest was the only way to avoid pain. But what happened? Her muscles weakened, her joints stiffened further, and the very thing she was trying to avoid, immobility, took over her life. One day, her granddaughter invited her to join a simple chair yoga class. At first, she resisted, but eventually, she went. That first day was hard. Every movement felt like resistance, like her body was fighting back. But slowly, step by step, week by week, she began to feel something shift. The pain didn't vanish, but her strength returned. Her balance improved. Her confidence grew. And most importantly, she discovered she could do more than she thought possible. Friends, movement is not about running marathons. It is about reclaiming your body one small step at a time. Arthritis thrives on stillness, but it weakens in the presence of motion. So whether it is stretching, walking, swimming, or simply dancing in your kitchen, remember this: every movement is a victory, and every victory is a step toward freedom. The second truth is this: pain is real, but perspective is powerful. Arthritis brings with it a constant reminder of limitation, but the way we see that limitation can either imprison us or empower us. Imagine two people waking up with the same stiffness in their hands. One says, "This is proof that my best days are behind me." The other says, "This is a challenge, yes, but today I will find a way to use these hands, even if slowly, even if differently." Which one do you think will live with more joy, more purpose, more strength? The pain is the same, but the perspective changes everything. I once met a man named Robert, a retired carpenter, whose arthritis made holding his tools nearly impossible. For a while, he spiraled into frustration and anger, but then he made a shift. He began teaching woodworking instead of practicing it himself. He could no longer hammer every nail, but he could pass on his knowledge, his love for the craft, his wisdom earned over decades. And do you know what he told me? He said, "Arthritis may have changed what I can do, but it has not changed who I am." That, my friends, is the power of perspective. Pain is part of the story, but it does not have to be the whole story. If we choose to see beyond it, to focus not only on what we've lost but on what we still have to give, we discover that arthritis cannot rob us of our value, our purpose, or our joy. And this brings me to the third truth: connection is the cure for despair. One of the cruelest effects of arthritis is not just physical, it's emotional. The isolation, the quiet withdrawal from social life because it hurts to walk, it hurts to drive, it hurts to simply show up. And yet, when we isolate ourselves, we give arthritis even more power. But something extraordinary happens when we choose connection. I remember speaking at a community center where a group of seniors with arthritis met weekly. At first, it looked like any other support group, but as I listened, I realized it was so much more. They laughed together about their stiff knees, They swapped recipes for anti-inflammatory meals. They celebrated each other's milestones, walking an extra block, opening a jar without help, getting through a day with less pain. They had turned their shared struggle into a source of strength. One woman said, "When I walk in here, I forget my pain, because I remember I am not alone." Connection does not erase arthritis, but it makes the burden lighter. Whether it is joining a support group, calling a friend, or simply letting your loved ones know how you are feeling, the act of reaching out is a powerful medicine for the spirit. So let us gather these three truths and hold them close. Movement is medicine. Your body craves it, even when it protests. Perspective is power. You may not control the pain, but you can control the story you tell yourself about it. And connection is the cure for despair. When you share your journey, you multiply your strength. Now, I ask you, what if arthritis was not the end of your story, but the beginning of a new chapter? What if instead of saying, "I am limited," you said, "I am learning to live differently"? What if every ache became a reminder, not of what you cannot do, but of how much strength it takes to keep going? Because here is the miracle. Every single day you choose to rise, to move, to shift your perspective, and to connect. You are defeating arthritis in the most important battle of all, the battle for your spirit. And so, I leave you with this call to action. Do not let arthritis define you. Take that walk, no matter how short. Stretch those arms, no matter how stiff. Reach out to a friend, no matter how tired. Choose courage over despair, motion over stillness, connection over isolation. The pain may be real, but so is your power. Remember, arthritis is a chapter, not the whole book, and the pen is still in your hands. Write the rest of your story with strength, with hope, and with unshakable resilience. When we look closely at the lives of those who struggle with arthritis, what we often see is not just physical pain, but a constant negotiation with life itself. Every decision, every movement, every plan becomes filtered through the question, will my joints allow me to do this today? And that question alone can wear down the strongest heart. But here is where we must stand together and reclaim something essential, that life is not measured only by what we can do easily, but by what we choose to do despite the obstacles. The courage to keep going, even when each step aches, is a courage greater than most people will ever know. I once sat with a grandmother who told me she loved baking cookies with her grandchildren, but arthritis had made it difficult for her to knead dough or stir batter. She thought about giving up entirely, but instead of surrendering, she changed the way she approached it. She invited her grandchildren to take on the tasks she could no longer perform, while she guided them, encouraged them, and shared stories from her own childhood. What happened? The cookies still got made, but more importantly, a legacy was passed on. The kitchen became a classroom of love and resilience. Arthritis did not steal that joy, it simply reshaped it. That is what each of us can do. Take the challenges and bend them into opportunities. And that brings us to the heart of the matter, resilience. Resilience is not the absence of hardship. It is the ability to rise through it. Imagine a tree battered by the wind. It bends, it sways, its branches may crack, but the roots dig deeper into the soil. Seniors facing arthritis are like those trees. Every day, their roots go deeper into patience, into strength, into wisdom. The joints may ache, but the spirit can grow stronger than ever before. And here is the beauty. When you live with resilience, you don't just endure, you inspire. Your family, your friends, even strangers who see you persevering, they learn from you what it means to live courageously. So let's look deeper at the first truth we discussed. Movement is medicine. Many people believe exercise is about youth, about fitness, about chasing some perfect image. But in reality, movement is about healing. It is about telling your body, I still need you, I still honor you, I still want you to carry me forward. Even the simplest acts, a few minutes of stretching, walking slowly to the mailbox, gently lifting your arms, signal to your body that you refuse to give in. Science tells us that movement lubricates the joints, strengthens the muscles that protect them, and even reduces inflammation. But beyond the science, movement is a declaration of life. Each step you take is like a whisper to your body, we are still in this together. And think of this, when children learn to walk, they fall hundreds of times. Do we ever tell them to stop trying? No, we cheer for them. We clap our hands and encourage them to get back up. Why should it be different now, when the body stumbles in a different way? If anything, we should clap louder, we should cheer stronger, because the courage it takes to move with arthritis is no less than the courage it takes to learn to walk in the first place. Now let's linger on the second truth. Perspective is power. How many times have we heard the phrase, growing old is not for the faint of heart? Arthritis proves that statement true, but perspective allows us to transform aging from a sentence into a celebration. Yes, the body changes. Yes, pain may become a companion. But perspective tells us this: the very presence of pain means you are still alive, still here, still with the chance to experience love, laughter, sunlight, music, friendship. Pain may darken part of the picture, but it does not erase the colors of life. Think of artists who paint despite losing their eyesight, of musicians who compose despite losing their hearing, of writers who dictate stories when their hands can no longer hold a pen. They did not let limitation silence them. Why should you? You still have a voice, you still have wisdom, you still have the ability to shape your world through perspective. When arthritis presses down, you can say, I choose to see the gift, not just the burden. I choose to see the love that surrounds me, the moments that matter, the blessings still abundant. That perspective is not denial, it is power. And then, the third truth: connection is the cure for despair. Arthritis has a way of whispering, stay home, withdraw, don't burden others. But isolation is not protection, it is poison. When we cut ourselves off, we give arthritis a second victory, not just over the body, but over the soul. That is why connection matters so deeply. When you call a friend, when you join a group, when you open up about your struggles, something extraordinary happens. The weight becomes lighter. A shared burden is half a burden. A shared laugh is double the joy. I remember walking into a small community hall where a group of seniors gathered every Thursday. They called themselves the Stiff and Strong Club. The name alone made everyone chuckle. But within that circle, there was power. They swapped stories of what worked for them, celebrated each other's little victories, and even sang songs together. One man said, when I walk in here, I stop being a patient and start being a person again. That is the magic of connection. Arthritis may tighten the joints, but connection loosens the soul. And let's not forget family. Too often, those with arthritis feel they must hide their pain so as not to worry their children or grandchildren. But honesty creates bridges. When you share your struggles, you give your loved ones the chance to love you fully. You teach them compassion. You show them what resilience looks like. And in return, you receive their strength, their support, their presence. Connection is not weakness, it is survival. It is strength multiplied. But let's go even deeper. What if arthritis could become not just a challenge to endure, but a teacher to learn from? Think about it. Every ache is a reminder of the miracle of movement we once took for granted. Every struggle is an invitation to slow down, to appreciate life more deeply, to notice what truly matters. Arthritis teaches patience, humility, and creativity. It teaches us that life is not about perfection, but about persistence. And persistence, my friends, is one of the greatest virtues a human being can have. So let me ask you, what story are you writing with your life right now? Is it a story of surrender, where arthritis takes the pen from your hand? Or is it a story of resilience, where despite the pain, despite the stiffness, you continue to write each page with courage and hope? Because the truth is, every single day you wake up, the pen is still in your hand, and you get to decide how the story continues. Imagine for a moment a world where every senior living with arthritis chose to embrace movement, perspective, and connection. Imagine parks filled with seniors walking slowly but proudly, neighborhoods alive with laughter from support groups, families inspired by the resilience of their elders. Imagine younger generations looking at seniors not as fragile, but as warriors who live with grace despite their battles. That world is possible, not someday, but starting today with each of us. So I challenge you, take the smallest step you can today. Walk to the corner and back. Stretch your arms while listening to music you love. Call someone and share a piece of your story. Write in a journal about what you are grateful for, even in the midst of pain. Each of these small acts is a spark, and when enough sparks come together, they create a flame of hope, a flame of resilience, a flame that tells the world, arthritis may shape my days, but it will not steal my spirit. You are more than your diagnosis. You are more than the stiffness in your knees or the ache in your fingers. You are wisdom. You are experience. You are love embodied in human form. Arthritis cannot touch that. It cannot diminish that. And when you choose to rise, to keep moving, to shift your perspective, and to stay connected, you prove that the human spirit is stronger than any pain. So let today be a turning point. Let today be the day you say, I will not let arthritis define me, because arthritis is part of your story, but it is not the title of your book. You are the author, and your story can still be filled with triumph, joy, and meaning. Stand tall, even if your knees shake. Smile, even if your hands ache. Love, even if your body resists. And above all, keep writing your story with courage. The truth is, life is not about waiting for the pain to stop. Life is about living fully in spite of it, and that is a victory no disease can ever take from you. There is something remarkable about the human body and spirit, something we often forget until life forces us to remember. When we are young, movement feels effortless. We run, we jump, we stretch without thought, and we rarely pause to thank our bodies for what they allow us to do. But then, as the years pass, challenges arise. For many seniors, arthritis becomes that challenge, a constant companion that turns the simplest actions into battles. And yet, in those very battles, there lies an opportunity to rediscover strength, to appreciate resilience, and to understand that while arthritis may touch the body, it can never truly conquer the spirit unless we allow it. I want to take you on a journey into what it means to live not in spite of arthritis, but in triumph over it. Because the truth is, there are thousands of seniors who are rewriting their lives every single day, proving that pain does not have the final word. Let me tell you about Henry. Henry was 78 when I met him, a retired teacher whose arthritis had twisted his hand so severely that even buttoning his shirt became a 20-minute struggle. At first, Henry withdrew. He stopped attending community gatherings, stopped walking to the park, stopped teaching Sunday school. But then, something happened. One of his former students came to visit him and said, Mr. Henry, you taught me how to believe in myself when nobody else did. Don't you think it's time to teach yourself that same lesson? Those words struck him like lightning. Slowly, Henry began to rejoin the world. He couldn't write on a chalkboard anymore, but he could sit with children and read stories aloud. He couldn't lead long walks, but he could join others for short ones. He told me, arthritis bent my hands, but it straightened my spirit. That is the kind of transformation that is possible when we choose to fight back with hope. The first pillar we spoke of was movement, and I must return to it because movement is not just a physical act, it is symbolic. Each movement says, I refuse to be still, I refuse to be trapped. A woman once told me that every morning she opens her curtains and stretches her arms toward the sunlight, even though the pain burns through her shoulders. When I asked her why, she said, because it reminds me that I am still alive and the sun is still shining. That is the essence of movement. It is a declaration of life. And here is something worth remembering. Movement is never measured in miles or marathons. Movement is measured in courage. If today you can only walk across your living room, that is victory. If tomorrow you can walk to your front porch, that is victory. If next week you make it down the block, that is victory. Arthritis may slow you down, but every step you take is an act of defiance against despair. But movement is not just for the body, it is for the mind. When you stretch your body, you also stretch your imagination. When you walk, you also walk away from fear. When you dance, even in small, stiff motions, you remind yourself that joy is still within reach. I once watched a group of seniors with arthritis gather for a dance class. At first, the movements were small, hesitant, cautious, but soon the music lifted them, and their laughter filled the room louder than the sound of their joints. They danced not because they were free from pain, but because they were free in spirit, and that freedom matters more than anything else. The second pillar we spoke of was perspective. Perspective is a lens, and how you polish that lens determines how you see your life. Arthritis can be seen as a wall, or it can be seen as a doorway. It can be seen as a thief or as a teacher. Which will you choose? Consider this. Pain is not only a reminder of struggle, it is also a reminder of survival. If you wake up with pain, it means you woke up. It means you have another chance to love, to learn, to share, to create. I am not saying to romanticize pain, because I know it is real, heavy, and exhausting. But I am saying this: when you change the story you tell yourself about pain, you change the life you live with it. I remember speaking to a group of seniors where one man said, "My arthritis has taken away everything I loved." The room fell silent. But then a woman raised her hand and said, "Has it taken away your smile? Has it taken away your memories? Has it taken away your ability to love your family?" The man paused, and slowly a tear rolled down his cheek. He realized that while arthritis had taken some things, it had not taken everything. Perspective is about focusing on the abundance that remains, not the scarcity that arrives. It is about gratitude in the midst of struggle. Gratitude does not erase pain, but it gives it meaning, and when pain has meaning, it no longer has mastery. The third pillar is connection. Connection is a lifeline. I cannot emphasize this enough. The worst prison arthritis builds is not around your joints. It is around your heart when you isolate yourself. But when you connect, you tear down those walls. You remind yourself that you are not walking this road alone. I have seen miracles happen when people come together. A woman who once refused to leave her house because of arthritis found herself leading a book club. A man who had stopped smiling rediscovered joy in a choir, his voice soaring even when his knees could barely hold him. Arthritis loses power when we come together, because unity multiplies strength. Let me paint this image for you. Imagine a fire. One log burns brightly, but eventually it dies out if left alone. Place that log with others, and the fire grows, feeding each flame. That is what connection does for people living with arthritis. Alone, the fire flickers. Together, the fire roars. And connection does not always mean large gatherings. Sometimes it is as simple as calling a friend, writing a letter, sharing your story with a grandchild, or even talking to a neighbor across the fence. Each act of connection is a flame added to your fire. Each conversation is a reminder: I am seen, I am valued, I am loved. But let's dig even deeper. Arthritis, for all its hardship, gives us a chance to teach the world something profound. Younger generations often rush through life, blind to the fragility of the body and the value of health. But when they watch seniors living with arthritis, choosing courage, choosing laughter, choosing connection, they learn what resilience truly looks like. You become a living lesson. You become proof that strength is not measured in muscles or speed, but in the will to keep going when every step hurts. This is why I say to every senior battling arthritis, you are not just surviving, you are leading. You are showing the world how to endure, how to adapt, how to thrive, and that leadership is priceless. Never underestimate the power of your example. Never think that your struggle is wasted. Someone, somewhere, is watching you and gaining courage because of how you live. So let me return to the question I asked earlier. What story are you writing? Is it one of despair or one of triumph? Because the truth is, arthritis is not the author of your story. You are. The disease may write in your margins, but you hold the pen, and every day you have the chance to write a line of resilience, a paragraph of courage, a chapter of hope. What if you chose today to write a story where arthritis is not the villain, but the background, the stage on which your strength shines brighter? What if your story inspired others to face their own struggles, whether arthritis or cancer or loss, or any challenge life throws their way? Because resilience is contagious, hope is contagious, courage is contagious, and your story has the power to spark those fires in others. So let this be your call to action. Move, even if it hurts. Adjust your perspective, even when the darkness feels heavy. Connect, even when you feel like withdrawing. Do these things not just for yourself, but for the generations watching, for the people who love you, for the world that still needs your wisdom. Arthritis is not the end of your freedom. It is the beginning of your fight for a different kind of freedom, the freedom of spirit. And once you taste that freedom, you will realize something powerful. Arthritis can never take away your will, your dignity, your love, or your light. So rise each morning with this declaration in your heart. I am more than my pain. I am more than my diagnosis. I am alive, I am resilient, and I am unstoppable. Say it, believe it, live it, because the world is waiting to see your fire burn bright. And when that fire burns, arthritis will no longer be your story. Your story will be one of triumph, of love, of resilience, a story that no pain, no challenge, no disease could ever erase. There is a truth we often overlook until life reminds us with a force we cannot ignore. Our bodies are not permanent. They change, they weaken, they slow down, and sometimes they hurt in ways that seem unbearable. For seniors living with arthritis, this reminder is present in every step, every attempt to open a jar, every restless night spent searching for a comfortable position. Arthritis is relentless, yes, but so too is the human spirit. And what I want to speak into your heart today is that no matter how relentless the pain, your spirit can be more unyielding still. Let us return to the idea of movement, because it is here that many people surrender first. They believe that once arthritis arrives, stillness is safety. But stillness is not safety. Stillness is surrender. Picture a river that stops moving becomes stagnant, filled with weeds and mosquitoes. But a river that flows, even slowly, remains alive, remains fresh, remains a source of life. The body is no different. When you move, even gently, even carefully, you keep the river of life flowing. Every joint that bends, every muscle that stretches, every walk you take is like water running through a riverbed, preventing it from drying out. Think of Eleanor, an 82-year-old woman I once met at a senior wellness program. She told me that arthritis had stolen her confidence. For months, she sat in her chair and watched the world go by outside her window. Then one day, her great-granddaughter asked, "Grandma, will you come outside and play hopscotch with me?" Eleanor laughed at the absurdity, but something inside her stirred. She couldn't hop, but she could walk slowly. She could hold her great-granddaughter's hand and watch her play. That was the first step outside after months of isolation. Soon, Eleanor joined a walking group. Not far, just to the end of the block and back. But each time she grew stronger, and each step reminded her of what was still possible. Arthritis did not leave her, but it loosened its grip on her soul. And this is the truth. Movement does not cure arthritis, but it cures despair. It tells your body, you are still needed. You are still capable. You still have purpose. Every step is an act of rebellion against hopelessness. Every movement is proof that life still pulses within you. And when you honor that truth, you will find yourself not just enduring, but living again. Now let us revisit perspective. Perspective is the lens through which we see not only arthritis, but life itself. Two people can face the same pain, but live entirely different lives depending on the story they tell themselves. One sees arthritis as a thief that has taken away their independence. The other sees it as a teacher, reminding them to slow down, to savor, to notice the moments they once rushed past. Which life would you rather live? I remember speaking with Samuel, a retired farmer whose hands, once strong enough to guide plows and lift bales of hay, were now stiff and curled from arthritis. At first, he was bitter. He told me, "These hands built my life, and now they are useless." But slowly, Samuel began to shift his perspective. He realized his hands could still guide, even if not in the fields. He began mentoring young farmers, teaching them the wisdom his years had given him. He could not carry the tools anymore, but he could carry knowledge, and that was even more valuable. One day, he said to me, "My hands may not work like they used to, but they still build. They build people." That shift in perspective turned his pain into purpose. You see, arthritis does not only press on the joints, it presses on the soul. And when you change the way you see it, you lift that pressure. Perspective allows you to say, "Yes, this hurts, but it does not define me. Yes, this limits me, but it does not diminish me. Yes, this changes me, but it also teaches me." Pain without perspective is suffering. Pain with perspective is transformation. and transformation is the gift you can claim if you choose it. But perhaps the greatest of all is connection. Arthritis has a way of making people retreat. You tell yourself, I don't want to be a burden. I don't want people to see me struggling. I don't want to slow anyone down. And so you withdraw, little by little, until isolation takes hold. But isolation is heavier than arthritis itself. The truth is, connection lightens the load. I recall visiting a community center where seniors with arthritis gathered weekly. They sat in a circle and each one shared something about their week, sometimes progress, sometimes setbacks, sometimes laughter, sometimes tears. One woman said, I couldn't open a jar of jam yesterday and I cried. Another man chimed in, I couldn't either, but I just asked my grandson and he felt like a hero. Suddenly, the room was filled with laughter. That is the magic of connection. It takes shame and turns it into shared humanity. It takes loneliness and turns it into belonging. And beyond support groups, connection can happen in families. When a grandmother teaches her granddaughter how to knit, even if her fingers move slower, she is weaving more than yarn. She is weaving love and legacy. When a grandfather sits with his grandson to share stories of how he built his life, even if his knees cannot walk the fields anymore, he is planting seeds in that young boy's heart. Arthritis does not end connection, it makes it even more vital. Now imagine, just for a moment, a society where seniors with arthritis were not hidden, not isolated, not silenced, but celebrated. Imagine communities filled with programs that brought them together, where every ache and limitation became part of a shared song of resilience. Imagine younger generations seeking out their elders, not pitying them, but learning from them. This is not a dream. It is possible, and it begins with each of us choosing connection over isolation, choosing to open the door instead of locking it, choosing to share our stories instead of swallowing them in silence. But let us go further. Arthritis, as painful as it is, holds within it a hidden invitation, an invitation to patience, an invitation to gratitude, an invitation to creativity. When the body changes, we are forced to adapt, and in that adaptation lies incredible growth. Think of the painter who could no longer hold a brush, but began to create art through photography. Think of the musician who could no longer strum the guitar, but began to compose songs with his voice. Arthritis challenges us to reimagine, to reinvent, to rediscover parts of ourselves we may have overlooked, and in doing so, it can lead us to a deeper kind of fulfillment. And yet, none of this denies the reality of pain. Pain is real, and we must honor it. We must not pretend it is easy, but at the same time, we must not let pain be the loudest voice in our lives. Let resilience, let love, let connection speak louder. When pain says, you can't, let hope say, watch me try. When pain says, it's over, let faith say, a new chapter has just begun. When pain says, you are alone, let connection say, we are in this together. So here's the challenge I leave you with. Each day when you wake up, choose one small act of movement. Stretch your arms, wiggle your toes, walk across the room. Each day, choose one moment of perspective. Write down something you are grateful for, even if it is as simple as the warmth of sunlight through your window. And each day, choose one act of connection. Call a friend, send a message, share a laugh. Do these 3 things, and you will not only endure arthritis, you will rise above it. Because arthritis may shape your body, but it does not shape your destiny. Arthritis may change your pace, but it does not change your purpose. Arthritis may whisper of limits, but your spirit can shout of possibilities. You are stronger than your pain. You are greater than your diagnosis. You are living proof that the human spirit cannot be broken by aching joints. And every time you choose to move, to see with gratitude, to connect with others, you prove that your story is one not of defeat, but of victory. So write that story boldly, live it courageously, share it generously, and let the world see that arthritis cannot stop a spirit that has chosen to rise. There comes a point in every person's life when they are asked a very simple but very powerful question. Will I allow my circumstances to define me, or will I define myself in spite of my circumstances? For millions of seniors living with arthritis, that question is not an abstract one. It is a daily choice. The morning stiffness that grips the joints, the dull ache that lingers through the day, the sharp twinge when opening a jar or rising from a chair. These are not rare occurrences, they are constant reminders. And yet, within those reminders lies the chance to decide, over and over again, I am more than this pain, I am more than this diagnosis, I am still alive, and I still have purpose. Arthritis is a formidable adversary, but the human spirit has faced greater storms and risen stronger. Think of all the challenges humanity has overcome: wars, famine, disasters, heartbreaks. And through it all, people have endured because of resilience, because of hope, because of the refusal to surrender. Arthritis is a different kind of battle, one fought not on battlefields but in bedrooms, kitchens, and daily routines. It is fought in silence and often invisibly. But that does not make the victory any less heroic. In fact, I believe it makes it even more so. Let us look again at the power of movement. There is an old saying, the body will rust out before it wears out, and for those with arthritis, that is especially true. Muscles that are unused become weak. Joints that are not stretched become stiffer. The less you move, the less you can move. It is a cycle, but cycles can be broken. Think of Thomas, a man in his 70s whose arthritis had left him dependent on a cane. He told me, I thought I would never walk without this cane again. But with guidance from a therapist and a commitment to daily movement, little by little he regained strength. One day, he set the cane aside for a few minutes, then an hour, then an entire day. And while he still uses it when needed, he told me, I don't feel trapped anymore. I feel free. Movement is freedom. Movement is a declaration that arthritis cannot chain you completely. You may not run marathons, but you can walk your garden. You may not dance with leaps and spins, but you can sway to your favorite song. Every movement counts, because every movement is a reminder that your body still serves you and that you are still in partnership with it. And let us not underestimate the power of small victories. Too often we measure success in grand achievements, but for someone living with arthritis, success might be as simple as climbing one more step, walking one more block, or stretching one more minute. Each small victory builds confidence, builds momentum, builds hope. And when hope grows, strength follows. Now let's turn once again to perspective. I want you to imagine two windows. Through one, you see only the rain, the clouds, the gloom. Through the other, you see the flowers, nourished by that same rain, the freshness of the air, the rainbow that follows. The weather is the same, but the view is different. Perspective is the window you choose to look through. Arthritis is the storm, but your perspective determines whether you see only the darkness or also the growth that can come from it. I knew a woman named Rosa who had lived with arthritis for more than 20 years. Her fingers were bent, her knees swollen, and yet every time I saw her, she smiled. I asked her one day, how do you keep such joy in the middle of your pain? She said, I decided long ago that pain may visit me every day, but joy is always invited too, and I choose to give joy the bigger chair at my table. That is perspective. It does not erase the pain, but it gives you the strength to carry it. Perspective also means learning to celebrate what remains. Maybe arthritis has slowed your steps, but perhaps it has also given you the chance to sit longer with your loved ones, to tell more stories, to listen more deeply. Maybe it has made certain tasks harder, but perhaps it has also revealed the kindness of others who step in to help. Perspective transforms limitation into appreciation, and appreciation transforms life from a burden into a blessing. Now let us reflect on connection again. Humans are not made to live alone. We are wired for community, for relationships, for love. Arthritis tempts people into isolation, whispering, don't go out, don't let anyone see your struggle. But that whisper is a lie, because the truth is, your struggle is exactly what connects you to others. When you share your pain, you invite others to share theirs. When you open your heart, you allow others to open theirs. And suddenly, you realize you are not walking this road alone. I visited a group once where seniors with arthritis gathered to cook together. At first, I wondered how they managed. Hands that could barely grip utensils, knees that made standing difficult. But what I saw was extraordinary. They adapted. One chopped vegetables while sitting down. Another stirred pots slowly but steadily. Another simply offered encouragement and laughter. The meal they created was not just food, it was fellowship. It was proof that connection makes even the heaviest burdens lighter. Connection also extends across generations. A grandfather may not be able to throw a ball with the same force he once did, but he can teach his grandson patience as they toss gently back and forth. A grandmother may not be able to knit sweaters as quickly, but she can pass on her craft, stitch by stitch, to her granddaughter. These are not losses, these are transformations. And through them, families grow stronger, traditions live on, and wisdom is passed down. But let us talk now about something deeper: resilience. Resilience is the thread that ties movement, perspective, and connection together. Resilience is what allows you to move when every step hurts. Resilience is what allows you to see light when darkness surrounds you. Resilience is what allows you to reach out when isolation tempts you to withdraw. Resilience is not the absence of weakness, it is the triumph over weakness. I once met a man who told me, "Arthritis has made me slower, but it has also made me wiser. I no longer rush through life. I notice things I never noticed before. The sound of birds in the morning, the warmth of tea in my hands, the smile on my wife's face." That is resilience. It is finding strength not in what has been taken, but in what remains. Resilience also inspires. When younger generations see seniors battling arthritis yet still living with courage, still laughing, still loving, they learn something priceless. They learn that true strength is not about having a perfect body, but about having an unbreakable spirit. They learn that life's value is not measured by ease, but by endurance. You, in your resilience, become a living testament of what it means to face adversity with dignity. So, how do we build resilience? We build it by practicing movement, even in small ways. We build it by choosing perspective, even on the hardest days. We build it by seeking connection, even when we feel tempted to retreat. And with every choice, resilience grows, like a muscle strengthened through use. Now, I want you to picture your life as a book. Arthritis may write certain chapters, but it does not write the ending. The pen is still in your hand, and the question is, what kind of ending will you write? Will it be one of surrender or one of triumph? Will it be a story of despair or a story of resilience? Remember, every day you wake up, you have a new page to write, and every page is a chance to declare, "Arthritis is part of my story, but it is not my whole story." So let us rise each day with determination. Let us move, however slowly. Let us see, however dimly, the blessings still around us. Let us connect, however imperfectly, with those we love and those who walk this path beside us. Because in these choices, we find victory. And victory does not mean the absence of pain. It means the triumph of spirit over pain. Arthritis may bend your body, but it cannot break your spirit. Arthritis may whisper of limits, but your soul can shout of possibilities. And when you choose to keep moving, to keep believing, to keep connecting, you write a story so powerful, so inspiring, that no disease can erase it. So rise, not tomorrow, but today. Rise in courage, rise in gratitude, rise in connection, and let the world see in you the fire that no pain can extinguish. Thank you.